My name is Chrislyn Laurie Laurore. I'm from South Florida. I'm a Haitian American anthropologist, scholar, curator, musician. I'm doing my PhD at the University of Pennsylvania right now in anthropology, Africana studies, and historic preservation. My research is concerned with heritage and return, specifically looking at Afro-diasporic peoples' relationships to the continent of Africa, and how heritage plays a role in all of that. So I feel like I got to archaeology through a back door or maybe a side door. I did anthropology, cultural anthropology, and Africana studies in undergrad, but I was also really interested in art and objects and art history. But it was really studying abroad at the University of Cape Town in South Africa, where I had an African studies professor who was a public archaeologist. He was working on the hands-off Prestwich Street project, which some folks might be familiar with, but thinking about the ways in which community groups mobilized with or against archaeology to make claims to space in a post-colonial city that was still trying to push them further and further into the margins. And so thinking about how the things in the ground could be used to make claims in the present, centuries later, about this is who we are as a people, this is who we've been as a people, and this is ours and we belong here. And I just thought that was so powerful. I mean, I am an interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary queen. I think if I could have gotten away with not claiming a particular discipline, I would have, because I think there's lots of ways to go about answering the questions that I want to answer. I'll say materiality and archaeology's focus on materiality is one way at getting at history that may be more marginal, because we know that written history is written with particular biases and perspectives that benefit, those in power. And so thinking about us, thinking about our people, or if they write about us at all, you don't kind of get that complete perspective, especially in places where it might be oral history, for example, that things are passed down through generations in that way, and it hasn't been written down. So I think the materiality aspect of archaeology is beneficial in that way. I think back to my own upbringing and my interest in heritage, again, being one that started with a preoccupation with cultural memory and collective memory, which kind of gets folded into heritage a lot. First-gen American in an immigrant household, and the past was always so present. And my grandparents and aunts and uncles, the whole village, thought it was really important for us to learn about where they came from, where we come from, and to not forget about it, to not assimilate to the point where we no longer identify with those traditions. And so heritage has always been all around me, from the languages that I learned how to speak and used at home to the, traditional dishes that I learned how to make from my grandma. And it was always about being able to keep a history and a culture alive, even when you're in another place. Definitely, I love the visual, I love contemporary art. I've worked in museums before, and so heritage kind of ends up being one of those kind of sweet spots between anthropology and art history, at least to me. And that's what's really exciting about it as well. And so I'm co-curating a show that's coming up, opening in February, which is exciting. But then also my background as a musician, something I've been toying around with is creating soundscapes. And so I've done a couple for Philadelphia, but thinking about when you move through space, it's a very embodied experience, and that too is material, I think. And it's not just about what you see, it's what you smell, what you hear. And thinking about how to engage all of the senses. We live in our own bodies and have our own experiences and have our own understandings of the world and reality based on that. And so why not draw upon that more? Being in the academy, being in the fields that we choose to be in, I'm not saying anything new by saying that they're incredibly white dominated, white male dominated. And so being at these conferences, being out in the field and getting to work with other Black folk who are asking the same kinds of questions, it's unlike anything I've experienced thus far in my academic journey. So that's great. And seeing how they're pushing the envelope and how they're pushing the field and bringing themselves into everything, that's super inspiring and keeps me motivated to keep bringing myself into all of this. So yes, more Black folks doing archaeology, more human-centered archaeology, more culturally focused, and interdisciplinary and creative and artistic. Yeah.